Sundays catch the ride. Football hoops we breaking wide. Stats and facts, truth on high. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Hit the corner of the field, we strategize. Breaking the game down, no disguise. Play by play, we analyze. I wear sharp, we magnify. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays heat, Sundays ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the convo's real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel.
All right, everybody, what's going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to today's edition of Swag Talk. Of course, this is a show we cover the swag inside and out. I am your tour guide around the swag. See what else coming at you. And today we're gonna recap Week 13, which is the final week of the regular season for most teams. We still have 3 games coming up next week, and then obviously the swag championship game, and then the celebration bowl. So we have um 5 games of swag football left for the remainder of the season. So it is dwindling, man. Football has come and gone for most teams. Some teams already have put the pad already, theoretically have put the pads up and move on to basketball season, but you got to play out the string, and so that's where we are now. So first off, before we get started, salute to Jackson State, 2025 East Division champs. They will host they will host the SWAC championship game against Prairie View, who clinched the West Division last week. So we got that out the way. We got our contestants for the SWAC championship game. Also, South Carolina State, by virtue of their defeat of Delaware State on Saturday, they are the MEAC champs. So the winner of the SWAC championship game will play South Carolina State in Atlanta in the Celebration Bowl. So we know that, and so we can start to look at all of that moving forward, and go with that. Also, don't forget to hit the socials: Facebook Swag Talk, Instagram Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that button, please, man. We are like 2 subs away from 1,500. That's a goal I would love to reach. So if you can if you can help me and the fam get across that goal, it would be much appreciated. Monday, I'll be dropping a video taking a look at the SWAC offenses this season. Have they improved from last season? Did they kind of decline? I just want to kind of see, what kind of change there was in all SWAC offenses statistically from last season to this season. I might do one for defense in the following week, but right now it's going to be all offense. Also, week 14 preview coming on Wednesday. Week 14 recap coming on Saturday. May go live Saturday night, so y'all keep it locked here for that. So let's go ahead, man. That's enough of me rambling on that. So let's go ahead and look at these games and see what happened in week 13. So first off, we start off with Alabama State defeating Arkansas Pine Bluff 44-13. Hornets improved to 9-2, 7-1 in conference. Golden Lions dropped to 3-8 and 2-6 in conference. Interesting game, honestly. Pine Bluff played an inspired first half. I thought they competed really well in the first half. They did have some missed opportunities. They missed a field goal after getting the ball deep in Bama State territory. They had a fumble that they returned deep in the Bama State territory, but that fumble was wiped out. The pass was ruled incomplete. Bama State drove and kicked the field goal at the half. So Pine Bluff led this game 7-0 for a few minutes in the first quarter. Garrison Davis, true freshman, got to start at quarterback due to injuries to Christian Peters and DJ Stevenson. He got to start and he scored on a 3-yard touchdown run, extra point good. So with 11-11 left in the first quarter, Golden Lions led 7-0. Bama State would answer with Abu Akel field goal from 24 yards out with 7:59 left in the first. Score was 7-3, and that would be basically how the first quarter went. Second quarter, 14:54 left. Abu Akel another field goal this time from 33 yards out. Hornets trail 7-6 with 7:54 left in the second quarter. Marcus Harris 50-yard touchdown run. I believe that's his 14th touchdown of the season. Um, he ran 50 yards for a touchdown. Hornets take a 13-7 lead, and then after that fumble slash incomplete pass, uh, Bama State would drive, and Abu Akel would kick a 43-yard field goal and made the halftime score 16-7. Bama State at that point was kind of waking up offensively. The defense was having some problems stopping the run, but but Pine Bluff couldn't get points, so it kind of evened out. Second half, Bama State would explode for 28 points, getting a third quarter touchdown with 12:57 left when Jamari Holzclaw caught a 12-yard pass from Tayshawn Smoot. Excuse me, 23-7 after the extra point with 10:54 left in the third. Carl Legan caught a 34-yard pass from Smoot. Extra point good, 30-7. Pine Bluff would kind of stop the bleeding with a touchdown with 2:50 left in the third when Jalen Jennings had a 2-yard run. Extra point, good, 30-13. And then Manny Thompson 10-yard pass from Smoot with 11:33 left in the game. Extra point good. Hornets led 37-13. And then Oscar Gregg 26-yard pass from Smoot with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Extra point good, 44-13, and that would be that. Like I said, Golden Lions competed, but they just couldn't take advantage of the opportunities that were presented to them, and they ultimately would come up short as things just never went their way to kind of make this a competitive game for 4 quarters. Pine Bluff 20 first downs, Bama State 22. 226 on the ground for the Golden Lions, 47 carries, 4.8 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. That's a really solid game on the ground. Bama State 203 yards rushing on 26 carries, ever 7.8 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown. So both teams got really good on the run game. The difference in this game was Pine Bluff, whether it was the lack of trust in a true freshman or he just couldn't really, he didn't really have a lot of plays under his belt. They didn't pass the ball well. They were 13-20, which is not a bad completion percentage, but they were 13-20 for 86 yards with no touchdowns and no interceptions. And I think that really hurt them because that made them one-dimensional. And after a while, Bama State was able to get those stops they needed. 271 through the air for the Hornets, 20 of 29. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. 312 yards of offense for the Golden Lions. 67 plays, 4.7 yards per play. They had 1 fumble but didn't lose it. They had 5 penalties for 25 yards. 474 total offense for the Hornets, 55 plays, 8.6 yards per play. 1 fumble. They didn't lose it. They had 5 penalties for 37 yards. 4 punts for 31.8 yard average for the Golden Lions, 1 for 49 for the Hornets. 35-17 time possession for the Golden Lions, and that's evident from their running game. 5 of 14 on third down, 3 of 4 on fourth down. They were 2 of 3 in the red zone. No sacks. They were 1 for 2 on extra points, and they missed their only field goal. So they had some opportunities that could have, at least in the first half, kept this game closer, but they just couldn't get it done. 243, 24-43 time possession for the Hornets. 6 of 11 on third downs. 1 of 1 on fourth down. They were 4 of 4 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks, 5 of 5 on extra points, and 3 of 3 on field goals. So they did a really good job with their kicking game. Like I said, Garrison Davis, 13 of 20, 86 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, 2 sacks. Tayshawn Smoot, 20 of 28, 271 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Jalen Jennings, 25 carries, 133 yards, and a touchdown. He had the bulk of that in the first half. Bama State really started to kind of lock some things down in the second half, although they did get loose from time to time. Jabari Kirkendall, 6 carries, 62 yards for the Hornets. Avery Robinson led the Golden Lions with 7 catches, 63 yards. Dylan DeJeet, 5 for 71 for the Hornets. Jalen Jones, 4 for 70. Pine Bluff was led by Deron Moore with 7 tackles. Highland, Hardwick, Hilliard, and Mingo and Williams each had tackles for loss, had 1 tackle for loss apiece. No interceptions, no sacks for the Golden Lions Hornets, led by DeAndre Morris with 9 tackles. Rudy John Luis had a 1.5 tackle for loss to lead the team. He also had 1 sack along with Eldridge Shelton. They each had 1 sack to lead the team. So, like I said, this was just one of those games where, it seemed like Pine Bluff was going to be able to make this a game for 4 quarters, but, they just did not have it. They just did not have it to get through, and Bama State was able to kind of overwhelm them and get the victory as they finished their SWAC season 7-1. They are 9-2. They have a chance to get to 10 wins next week against Tuskegee. So we'll see what happens with that. Golden Lions, they end their season up and down. It's a lot to look at, a lot to take in. This team we never really fully knew what they were. It's crazy. You play this many games and you don't really have a full hold on who this team was, but they competed and it just came up short a few times. Next up, Texas Southern defeats Alabama A&M 24-7 to get their first winning season since 2000 with an asterisk on it. They did have a winning season in 2010 when they won the SWAC championship game, but I think those wins were vacated. I still look at it as being there, but I think the last time was like 2000 or so. So put an asterisk on that. But a winning season for the Tigers, 6-5, 5-3 in conference. That's a 1-game improvement from last season. So they slowly are they're slowly building. What they're doing is not flashy. What they're doing is not really noticeable, but they are building. So we'll see if they can continue to take steps, take a bigger step next season. Alabama A&M drops to 4-8, 1-7. They started off the season, pretty strong in terms of just picking up a couple wins over Tennessee State and Alcorn. Although Tennessee State did not, they had a horrible season. Alcorn was kind of reeling at that time, but injuries kind of did the Bulldogs in throughout the season, and they just didn't really have it. So kind of a disappointing end for them. But Coach Shade was like 1-9 at Miles in his first season, so he can rebound, and we'll see if they rebound. But in this game, Lawrence Butler got the Tigers on the scoreboard with 1:27 left in the first with a 1-yard run. Extra point good, 7-0. Bulldogs would tie it up early in the second quarter with 12:48 remaining when Davion Walker caught a 44 pass from Jordan Chambers Smith. Extra point good, 7-7. Jordan Davis would score on a 9-yard run for Texas Southern with 5:14 left in the game. Extra point good, 14-7. And then with 27 seconds left in the second quarter, Cordell Rogers will catch a 9-yard pass from Jordan Davis. Extra point good, 21-7. And then with 8:32 left in the third, Christian Avalon will kick a 34-yard field goal to get a Tigers a 24-7 lead. And then nothing much really happened after that. Let's kind of take a look at the drive chart to see what the Bulldogs were able to do in the second half. So in the third quarter, they got the ball after TSU punted at their 38. They went 3 and out. The next drive, they got the ball after Texas Southern punt. They got it at their own 40. They had one play and they fumbled. Then they got the ball after the field goal for Texas Southern at their own 45 on the kick return. They went 5 plays, 20 yards, and punted. In the fourth quarter, they got the ball again after after a missed field goal for Texas Southern at their 48. They went 5 plays and 15 yards and turned it over on downs. They got the ball back after a TSU punt at their own 39. They went 5 plays and punted, and then they got the ball at the they got the ball at their 42 and drove 12 plays, 30 yards down TSU 28 and turned it over on down. So just not much going there offensively in the second half, and that ultimately did them in. Let's take a look at what both teams were able to do. Bulldogs 15 first downs, Tigers 20, and 121 yards on the ground, 26 carries, no touchdowns, 4.7 yards per carry. Texas Southern 228 yards on the ground, 49 carries, 4.7 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Bulldogs 190 yards through the air, 17 of 31, 1 touchdown, no interception. Texas Southern 158 through the air, 11 of 20, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 311 total offense for the Bulldogs, 57 plays, 5.5 yards per play. They fumbled it 3 times in this game and lost 2. So they shot themselves in the foot quite a bit. They only had 2 penalties for 20 yards. Texas Southern finished with 386 yards on 69 plays, 5.6 yards per play. They fumbled once but didn't lose it. They had 3 penalties for 30 yards. So this game didn't obviously have many penalties, 5 for 50 yards between the two teams. Bulldogs punted 6 times for 38.5 yard average. Tigers 5 for 32.6. 25-minute time possession for the Bulldogs, 4-12 on third down, over 2 on fourth down. They never got in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. They had 1 on 1 on extra points and 0 for 1 on field goals. Texas Southern 35 minutes time of possession. They were only 2 of 12 on third down, 1 on 1 on fourth down. They were 4 or 5 in the red zone. They had 3 of 3 on extra points, and they missed 2 field goals. They were 1 of 3. So they had a couple more opportunities that they could have got points, but they came up short. Eric Hanley, 16 of 30, 146 yards, no touchdown, no interceptions, no interceptions, 4 sacks. Jordan Chambers Smith was 1 for 1 for 44 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Davis got the start for Texas Southern. He was 11 of 20 for 158 yards with a touchdown, no interception. He was sacked twice. Ryan Morrow led the Bulldogs with 9 carries for 64 yards. Lawrence Butler got the start through the Adrian Renfro being out. He had 20 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown. Davion Walker, 7 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown for the Bulldogs. Trenton Leary, 2 for 62 for the Tigers. Wyatt Wright led the Bulldogs with 10 tackles along with Jalen Wright. He also had 10 tackles. Nick Glenn, 1.5 tackles for loss to lead the Bulldogs. He had 1 sack, and Wright had a sack. Texas Southern. My doggone cursor. Texas Southern was led by Hardman with 9 tackles, tackle for loss. Garfield Lawrence had 2.5 tackles for loss. He also had 2.5 sacks to lead the defense. So he had a huge, a nice game. Also 5 tackles for him. So like I said, this is a good game for Texas Southern. They were able to close out the season strong, and they're slowly building. And I'm interested to see what steps they take in the future, aka next season. So good win, finished with a winning season, improved their conference record by 1, and opportunity for some more growth. Next game, we have Prairie View basically doing what they needed to do against Valley, 59-6. This game obviously was never close. Panthers have shown that they have, their offense is able to put points on the board these last few weeks. At one point, they were kind of stuck in that mid-20s range, but they've been able to put points on the board, and defense obviously does what they do. It's hard to move the ball and score on this defense, and it's interesting to see how they handle that championship game in a couple of weeks. But here, Panthers improved to 9-3, have opportunity to win 10 games. They win the SWAC championship. 7-1 in conference. Valley drops to 1-10 and 0-7 in conference. They do have one game left next week, so we'll see if they can win their home finale next week. And looking at this game, this was, just like I said, this was a Panthers blowout. 35 points in the first half, and that basically sealed the deal. Trevon Jones, 5-yard pass from Cam Peters, extra point good. Panthers led 7-0 with 10:08 left in the first. 3:52 left in the first. Chase Bingman, 1-yard run, extra point good, 14-7. Second quarter, 10:15 left. Bingman gets his second touchdown, this time from 25 yards out, 21-0. With 6:35 left in the second quarter, Peters, 7-yard run for the Panthers, 28-0. And then with 3:48 left in the half, Randall, 33-yard pick six for the Panthers, extra point good, 35-0. 13:27 left in the third. Josiah Rockwell, 31-yard pass from Peters, extra point good, 42-0. Lamaje McDowell, 6-yard run for the Panthers for a touchdown with 9:33 left in the third. Extra point good, 56-0. Valley would get on the board when Adonis Jackson scored. Made us go 56-6. Conversion no good. And then Carlos Villagomez, 32-yard field goal for the Panthers with 10:39 left in the game to make the score 59-6. So this was just a complete blowout. Valley finished with 8 first downs, 22 for the Panthers, 62 yards pass running for Valley, 35 carries, 1.8 yard per carry, no touchdowns, 234 on the ground for Prairie View, 35 carries, 6.7 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns, 80 yards passing for Valley, 9 of 20, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 266 for Prairie View, 15 of 23, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 142 yards of offense for Valley all game. 2.6 yards per carry. They did fumble 3 times and lost 1. They had 8 penalties for 65 yards. That's a dominant defensive effort. You got to applaud. I know people gonna say, "Oh, it's Valley," but still, you got to give Prairie View defense a lot of credit for this effort, man. They put the clamps on these dudes. Like I said, you can say what you want, but when you come out in a game that don't mean nothing, honestly, because you got a division wrapped up, it's not a lot on the line. You playing a team, you could lapse. But these dudes, man, they locked in, and then I got to salute them. I think this is the kind of thing you see from playing Lincoln and Virginia Lynchburg and people like that. Y'all can say I'm hyping it, y'all can say I'm over the top with it, but I got to salute that, man, because that's just a tremendous game for their defense. Panthers 500 yards of offense, 58 plays, 8.6 yards per play. 1 fumble, didn't lose it. They had 7 penalties for 68 yards. Valley punted 10 times for a 35.9 yard average. 4 points for Prairie View for 27.5 yard average. Valley 31, 56 time possession, 2 of 14 on third down. They were 1 for 2 on fourth down. They didn't make any trips in the red zone. They didn't get any sacks. They missed a field goal and an extra point. Prairie View 28-04 time of possession. They were only 2 of 9 on third down, but in this kind of game, you don't really need it. They didn't attempt a fourth down. They were 5 of 6 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. They were 8 of 8 on extra points and 1 of 1 on field goals. Brandon Nunez led Valley, going 9 of 18 for 80 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked once. Cam Peters, 12 of 16 for 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks. Malik Kemp led Valley with 13 carries for 21 yards. Chase Bingman, 8 for 71 and 2 touchdowns, led the Panthers. Cameron Nelson led Valley with 2 catches for 35 yards. Josiah Rockwell, 4 for 100 and a touchdown for the Panthers. Kobe Bird led the Delta Devils with nine tackles. Padak led them with 1.5 tackles for loss. They had an interception was by Green. Prairie View was led by Sterling Roberts and Kennedy Parker, each with 6 tackles. Parker had 3 tackles for loss. He also had a sack. along with Jamal Marshall. Interception was by Randall. He returned it for a touchdown. So, like I said, this was just one of those, games that you could lose focus in these kind of games where Prairie View stayed locked in, and now they move on in the SWAC championship game. Valley, one more chance for a victory. This was just a tough one for them. Probably the worst game they played all year, and so you'll see. We'll see how they improve. But for now, it was a tough one. Next up, Florida Classic. Man, this game was such a odd type game. It looked like Bethune was gonna run away with it. Uh, FAMU made a big run and got back in front, and then the Wildcats had some magic and got a touchdown at the end to win this game. And so big victory for Bethune Cookman. They finished their season at 7. It's at 7-6. I think they 6-6. Yeah, they these numbers are all crazy. They I think they finished at 6-6 and 5-3 in conference. So big victory for them. Nice finish to the season. Obviously, when you win these kind of games, it's always a bonus for you. And the season kind of turned, and then it turned the other way again, but they rebounded at the end. Rattlers, the roller coaster continues. They're why is everybody looking at 12 games? They 5-6, 4-5-6. Oh, this box score got the numbers all crazy. Let me get this right. I don't want to mess this up. But anyway, the Rattlers roller coaster season continues, and they just have really struggled. FAMU is 4-3, 5-6. All right, Bethune Cookman 5-3 and 6-6. Like I said, for some reason they were adding numbers to these records on the box score, but we got it straight. It don't change the fact that this season been a roller coaster for the Rattlers, and they still got one game left to play. Bethune Cookman solid finish to their game, and they got a 500 season and a strong record in the SWAC East at 5-3. So good look for them. This game started when Daniel Porto had a 45-yard field goal for the Rattlers. They took a 3-0 lead with 8:33 left in the first. Lorenzo Jenkins, 25-yard pass from Timmy McClain, extra point good. Wildcats led 7-3. That came with 4:38 left in the first. 13:31 left in the first. Juan Dominguez, 30-yard field goal for the Wildcats, 10-3. Kamari Robinson, a 50-yard run for the Wildcats with 6:52 left in the first half. Extra point good. Wildcats led 17-3. Amon Burris, 44-yard pass from R.J. Johnson. Conversion no good. 17-9. That came with 4:04 left in the first. And then with 23 seconds left in the first half, Malik Huggins, 7-yard pass from McClain, 24-9. Looked like at that point, Wildcats was going to run away with this thing. But with 11:56 left in the third quarter, Burris, 17-yard pass from Johnson, extra point good. Rattlers 24-16. Move on to the fourth quarter, 8:49 left. Porto, 37-yard field goal for the Rattlers, 24-19. Jamal Haley, 72-yard run. 2-point conversion, good. Rattlers took a 27-24 lead with 7:47 left in the game. Bethune Cookman would answer when Javon Ross caught a 67-yard pass from McClain. Extra point good, 31-27 with 7:03 left in the game. And then with 2:19 left in the game, Thad Franklin, 19-yard run for a touchdown. Extra point good. Rattlers at 34-31 at that point. Looked like they had it locked up. Bethune Cookman would move down the field. They go 8 plays and 70 yards, minute 52. Capped that off with a 41-yard pass to Josh Evans from McClain. Extra point good. 38-34. FAMU would get the ball. And I think they drove down to the 45 before they threw an incompletion to end the game. And this was a back and forth affair. Like I said, it looked like Bethune Cookman was going to run away with it. Then it looked like FAMU were going to take the lead and kind of hold the Wildcats off. Wildcats had a little bit more magic left in them and got the victory. And like I said, this was a solid season for Bethune-Cookman. I don't care how you slice it, 6-6 is a great finish. It's not a great record, but it's a great finish for a team that me and a lot of other people said that this team would be neck and neck with Valley, um, and not really have a chance. And they proved me wrong. So I salute them for that. They had a really solid season and a couple opportunities go the other way. They could have still been in the hunt for the championship. So let's look. FAMU 22 first downs, Bethune-Cookman 23. 195 on the ground for the Rattlers. 25 carries, 7.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. 211 for the on the ground for the Wildcats. 34 carries, 6.2 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. 228 through the air for the Rattlers. 22 of 35, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 274 through the air for the Wildcats. 22 of 33, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. 423 yards of offense for FAMU. 60 plays, 7 yards per play. They fumbled once and lost it. They had 7 penalties for 70 yards. Bethune-Cookman 485 yards. Offense 67 plays, 7.2 yard per play, 2 fumbles. They lost 1, and they had 9 penalties for 90 yards. Rattlers 4 punts, 44.2 yard average. Wildcats 3 for 48.7. 28-19 time possession for the Rattlers. 3 of 10 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down, 4 for 4 in the red zone. They had 3 sacks, 2 of 3 on extra points, and 2 for 2 on field goals. Wildcats 31-41 time possession, 4 of 12 on third down. They were 1 of 1 on fourth down, 3 of 3 in the red zone. They had 4 sacks. They were 5 of 5 extra points, and they were 1 of 3 on field goals. So they had a couple opportunities to kind of extend their lead early, but missed field goals, and they kind of had to battle back after that. R.J. Johnson, 22 of 34, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 sacks. McLean got the start for the Wildcats, 22 of 33, 274 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 sacks. Franklin, 11 for 118 for the Rattlers and a touchdown. Robinson, 11 for 89 and a touchdown for the Wildcats. Burris, 4 for 69 and 2 touchdowns. Also, Ace Cobb, 3 for 66 for the Rattlers. Javon Ross, 2 catches, 82 yards and a touchdown for him. Riles led the Rattlers with 10 tackles. He also had 2 tackles for loss to lead the defense. And he had 1 sack along with James Gardner Jr. They both had sacks. Bethune-Cookman, Antoine Watts led the defense with 7 tackles. Davis, Washburn, and Clark each had 2 tackles for loss apiece. Washburn had 2 sacks to lead the defense. And that was, like I said, this was an entertaining game, and these are the kind of games you like in rivalry games. That back and forth affair come down to the final seconds. Who's gonna win? It really kind of gets you, going. And Bethune-Cookman, like I said, a strong finish in this one to win and wrap up a pretty solid season for them. So again, we'll see how they build on this moving forward. A lot of us, again, me included, was like Coach Woody is going to be gone after this season, and I think he gave himself some more life. So they did what they needed to do. They found things that worked, and they were able to be successful at points in the season. So we'll see how that goes. FAMU, the roller coaster has one more ride, and we'll see how that turns out next week. Next up, this was a wild game. Jackson State defeated Alcorn 27-21. Tigers improved to 9-2, 7-1 in conference. Moving on to the SWAC championship game. Braves dropped to 5-7, 4-4. Honestly, at certain points in the season, it looked like Alcorn wasn't going to win many games. They did have a 4-game winning streak, which was snapped here, and they put themselves at least in a good position to finish in the top half of the division after such a horrible start. But they fought hard in this game. They had a couple things go their way, but they couldn't seal the deal. and Jackson State was able to pick up the win. Jared Lockhart, 1 yard run for Jackson State with 11:22 left in the first quarter. Tigers led 7-0 after the extra point. With 3:09 left in the first, Basil 43-yard field goal, 10-0. Travis Terrell, as time ran out in the first quarter, 1 yard run for Jackson State. Score was 17-0 at that point. It looked like Alcorn was done for. This was looking like a replay of last season, minus the early Alcorn touchdown. It looked like that kind of game was about to happen. Second quarter, Tyran Warren, 64-yard pass from Jalen Tolbert. Braves get on the board 17-7. Nate Rembert will get a 55-yard touchdown pass from Lockhart, 24-7. And this was one play. This was kind of a point where the game appeared to be turning toward Alcorn. Before the Rembert touchdown, the Braves drove down deep into Jackson State territory, and they snapped the ball over the quarterback's head. Jackson State was able to recover it. So you go from opportunity of trailing 17-10 or 17-14. You go from that to giving them a 55-yard pass, and now you're down 24-7. So that was a big swing in this game. I thought, again, I probably should stop thinking during games, but I thought, again, that at that point Jackson State was going to cruise because they were up 24-7, and that would be the halftime score, 24-7. Coming out of the half, Alcorn would get a 44-yard run from Reggie Davis. Extra point good, 24-14. That came with 12:32 left in the third. With 9:06 left in the fourth, Basil, 23-yard field goal. Jackson State led 27-14. Again, looking like at the least the Braves were going to hold these guys off. The Tigers were going to hold these guys off and get out of there like that. But Alcorn put together a drive, moved all the way down the field, 6:33 off the clock, 14 plays. Tyran Warren, 17-yard pass from Tolbert, scored 27-21. And then things got a little interesting. Jackson State they would get the ball and, basically in the position to run the clock out. They would get the ball with 2:19 at their own 40. And they would kind of move the ball a little bit to kind of, like I said, get to the point where they're running the clock out. With 1 minute and 9 seconds left on the clock, Jackson State gets in the victory formation. Snap rolls, or Lockhart, missed the snap. The snap was bad. Alcorn recovers it, and they get the ball at their own 40 with 1 minute and 9. At their own 45 with 1 minute and 9 seconds to go in the game. And at this point, now it looks like Alcorn is about to win this game. But they had an odd drive at the end, and they just couldn't. I think on their first play, they had a completion. Didn't get out of bounds to stop the clock, so the clock kept running. They ultimately got down to the Jackson State 43, and they got to the 38, and they had a penalty which set them back because the offense wasn't fully lined up when they got the snap because they were trying to rush because the clock dropped back to the 43, and they just could not move the ball any further, and threw two incomplete passes in the end zone, and came up short by 6 points. Alcorn 19 first down, Jackson State 18, 148 yards on the ground for Alcorn, 33 carries, 4.5 yards per carry, 1 touchdown, 185 yards for Jackson State on the ground, 42 carries, 4.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, 242 total off, 242 through the air for Alcorn, 22 of 34, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 194 through the air for Jackson State, 15 of 19, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 390 for the Braves, 67 plays, 5.8 yards per play. They had 1 fumble and they lost it. 10 penalties for 85 yards. Jackson State 379 total offense, 61 plays, 6.2 yards per play. They fumbled twice and lost one. They had 10 penalties for 96 yards. 6 punts for Alcorn for 39.7 yard average. Jackson State 3 for 42. Alcorn 29-13 time of possession, 7 of 16 on third down, 3 of 3 on fourth down, 1 for 2 in the red zone. They had 2 sacks. They were 3 of 3 on extra points, did not attempt a field goal. Jackson State 30 of 47, time of possession 6 of 13 on third down, 1 of 2 on fourth down, 4 of 4 in the red zone. No sacks. They had 3 on extra points, and they were 2 of 2 on field goals. Jalen Tolbert, 21 of 33 for Alcorn, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, no interceptions. Lockhart, 15 of 17 for 194 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception, 2 sacks. Davis, 15 carries, 120 yards for Alcorn and a touchdown. Miller, 15 carries, 106 yards for Jackson State to lead them on the ground. Warren, 7 for 111 for the Braves and 2 touchdowns. Big game for him. Rembert, huge game, 7 for 120 and a touchdown. He was really unstoppable in this game. Edwards led Alcorn with 12 tackles. He also had a tackle for loss, along with Palmer, Butler, and McCall. They each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. And they had 4 guys with a half a sack apiece. Jackson State was led by Shamar Hawkins with 8 tackles. Ivory, Chisholm, Washington, Pulliam, and Lacey each had 1 tackle for loss apiece. No sacks, no interceptions. So, like I said, this was a game again that kind of had some swings. You kind of looked like Jackson State was gonna run away with it. Alcorn looked like they were gonna make a game of it. Jackson State take the lead and build it again. Alcorn get back in it. Jackson State look like they're gonna end it. Alcorn gets opportunity, becomes a short. It was a fun game to watch, man. I know, if you're on both sides in that stadium, it probably was like really, clinching certain parts of your body. But as a neutral observer, I thought this was a fun game to watch. It was chippy as hell. But even the refs got involved with that, which I find that a little odd. I wish I knew what happened in that situation. But good win for Jackson State. They held off Alcorn. They go in back to the SWAC championship game with opportunity to go back to Celebration Bowl. So we'll see where they go. Alcorn, a good finish, even though they lost this game, but they rebounded. Once they got in the SWAC play, they started to put some things together. Had a 4-game winning streak, and improved themselves over where they were. Let's look at the schedule for Week 14. Like I said, these are the final 3 games of the regular season. Tuskegee is at Alabama State. That's a 2 p.m. kick on November 27th. That's Thanksgiving, Turkey Day Classic. Saturday, November 29th, Bayou Classic, Grambling and Southern hook up in the Superdome. 1 p.m. kick. All times are Central. Let me throw that out there. FAMU is at Valley. Makeup game for that Atlanta debacle. That game is at 2 o'clock in Itta Bena. And then on December 6th, we have a SWAC championship game, 1 p.m. Central. Prairie View at Jackson State. Like I said, we'll do a lot of talking about that game in the weeks leading up to it, and that's that. So final stand, basically the final stand is minus a couple games. These games don't impact the standings at all, really. But Jackson State 7-1, 9-2 overall. They're on a 4-game winning streak. Division champs. Bama State finished in a tie, but they lost a tiebreaker. So they're 7-1. They also 9-2. And they have 5 wins in a row. Bethune-Cookman 5-3, 6-6 overall. They have won 1, so they basically guaranteed 3rd place because even if FAMU win next week, they'll finish 3rd because they beat them. So that's a strong finish. Bethune-Cookman 3rd place. That's really strong. But FAMU 4-3 in conference, 5-6 overall. They've lost 1. Alabama A&M 1-7, 4-8 overall. They finished the season on a 5-game losing streak. Valley 0-7, 1-10 overall. They've lost 5 games in a row. Like I said, they have 1 game left against FAMU. One last opportunity to get a win in conference. Still will finish last because tiebreaker losing to Alabama A&M. they would finish behind them. Prairie View West champs 7-1, 9-2 overall. They 9-3 overall. Excuse me. They won 3 games in a row. Texas Southern 5-3, nice strong finish. 5-3, 6-5 overall. They won 2 games in a row, so they'll finish second. Grambling basically gonna finish either third or fourth, depending on what happens, but probably third. They're 4-3 right now, 7-4 overall. They've lost one. Alcorn 4-4, 5-7 overall. They lost one. Pine Bluff 2-6, 4-8 overall. They've lost 3 games in a row. And Southern in the Stellar 0-7, 1-10 overall. They're on a 9-game losing streak. It doesn't look like they're gonna break that. So we'll see. But with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC, C Wells, signing out, and I will catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.